Hi, my name is Jalen Code, and this is my program. So I have my pieces.h, pieces.cpp, and chess.cpp file. So starting off with my classes, I have my knight, rook, pawn, and king classes. All of them except the pawn work the exact same. So I have my getters, which just private access these private variables. I have my move function that's responsible for checking and moving pieces. And then I have my knight, or I have my default constructor that takes in the starting location for x and y. So knight, rook, and king are the exact same. Um, my pawn is a little bit different. I have this bool get moved, which basically checks to see if the piece is moved already. So in my definition or my declaration, I have three parameters, and then in my chess.cpp, I go ahead and define it as false. I start it as false because it hasn't moved yet, and because I know that on the first move that it can move two spaces, but on the second, third, fourth, fifth, etc., it can only move one space. So I have that there just to check if it's moved already, and it's accessing this has moved variable. So those are my classes, pretty easy. And I have my getters, which just return the private variable for the x and y positions. All of these are the same, pretty basic. And then I have my default constructors for knight, rook, pawn, and king. The knight, rook, and king are all the same. They just return, or they just basically give the starting location. Um, and yeah, I define it in here. I have my knight starts at 3-0, rook starts at 4-0, pawn, it takes that additional parameter, starts it off as false because it hasn't moved yet until it gets to the move function. And then I have my king set to 6-0. So yeah, that's it for that. And then I have my obviously my get moved, which returns the private has moved variable. So for my knight, I broke it up into 8 cases. So anytime a knight is on the board, it has 8 locations that it can go to, which are like two up, one to the left, one to the left, two up, like pretty much just stuff like that. Unless I have right here, unless it's trying to go out of bounds, which in bounds is 0-0 to like 9-9, 0-9, 9-0. So it can't go out of those bounds, but if all of these are true and it's a like basically if it's a valid move and it stays in bounds, then it's gonna update this pointer, which points to the private data member because we have scope resolution right here. It basically just updates the location of x and y, and it says that it's a valid move. And if not, if none of these are true, or if this if statement doesn't work, then it'll say it's an invalid move. And so for my rook, I have the same kind of thing. I know a rook can move like vertical, horizontal, but it can't move diagonal. So basically, if x stays the same, then y can change, and if y stays the same, then x can change. So if my y stays the same and they try to move to a place that's in within the board, then that's a true move, and then it'll obviously update the location if this is true, if either one of these are true, and it'll say it's a valid move, otherwise it can't. And my pawn starts off as get moved false, so it'll run through only this one because this one is assuming that it's true, and it'll check if it's either up 2 or up 1, and if none of those are true, then it doesn't even count as a move, so it won't update um, this. So on their next turn, they can still move 2, obviously. So if it's a true move, if it's a good move, then they're able to go ahead and then this has moved becomes true. Otherwise, all the other turns they can do only one. So it's it right there. Um, and then for my king function, it can only move one up, one right, one left, or one down. So those are the four cases I have here, making sure that it stays in bounds with these conditionals. It'll update the value, and yeah, same thing. So these are my default constructors, and then I have they make the choice based on a character which piece they want to move. It's gonna take in that data, and as long as it's not Q, which Q means quit, then it'll keep running through this while loop and gathering their data or their choice. And then this these if statements are pretty much all the same, but they're unique to the character. So like obviously, it's not going to check to see if king is trying to go to the king spot. So it checks against the other three, and it'll make sure it's not one of those. And if it does, then it'll move. It'll go to the move function. So that's the same for all of those. And if not, then it'll say it's an invalid move. And yeah, that's pretty much it. They're all the exact same, really. Just different calls because obviously they're different pieces. They have different move functions. So yeah, it'll just redo that and take in another choice. And so if I've already SFTP'd and compiled, but I'll just make sure um, to do it on video. So like for king, king, if I want to move it to 7-0, there's no one there, so I can move it there. Rook, let me try to move it to 4-5. That's a valid move. Pawn, if I want to move it to 5-3, it's not going to work because it's trying to move 3 spots on its first attempt, which it can only move 2. But if I try to move it to 5-2, then it works. And then if I want to move my knight, I can move it to 4-2. That's a valid move. And yeah, I've pretty much tested it a lot. I've made sure it works against like the most like basic cases, like hitting each other and um, moving. So also, it would be nice to have like some test cases in the future, if you're listening. But anyways, that's my code. I'm gonna quit. And thank you for listening.